Would you like to be somebody who understands why phone and device detoxes are so useful and why it is so important to be able to have the space and the time to think freely? Then listen to this entire video where I explain the deleterious effect of permanently occupying yourself with information inputs like your phone, social media, and your laptop, and the benefit from giving yourself space and time to let your thoughts and your mind wander. So before we get into this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you'd like to learn more about self-development, dating, and how to reduce suffering in life. Let's get into it. Now, I used to spend a lot of time on my phone on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and YouTube. I still do, but I deleted Snapchat and Instagram. And these apps are designed to draw in your attention and keep you in the app, using the app for as long as possible, because that is how they make money. They advertise products, and that's how they basically get their revenue, about a large part of their revenue. So these apps are trading the resource of your attention, and they're obviously designed to make them, potentially or probably addictive, which is also quite shady, but that's beside the point today. So the problem for us is that if we spend a lot of our time focusing and our attention drawn into the app, we automatically don't spend time on other things. Now that's a problem because it prevents us from being creative and coming up with new ideas, especially because you're creative and you come up with new ideas when you're doing nothing. And usually when we're doing nothing, we have the proclivity to grab our phone and open it and be occupied again. Now, in order to be creative and produce innovative ideas, so our minds need to be free and allow the creative thoughts to arise randomly. And this doesn't happen if you are permanently occupied and your attention is allocated to a specific thing. Then your specific attention then blocks any random thoughts that will pop up. Now, think about it for yourself. If there are any times regularly in the day when you come up with really awesome creative ideas, reflect. When do you come up with these ideas? What are you doing? For myself, it's always right before I go to bed, because that's when I'm not on my phone. I have a piece of paper on my bedside table with a pen to make sure I write down all these creative ideas and capture them, because they're very important. And actually a lot of the content of this YouTube channel stems from those minutes before I go to bed, because then my mind is wandering and it's free to think. And you can also reflect, or people often say they come up with their best ideas when they're in the shower. Why is this the case? Partially because they're not doing anything in the shower apart from showering. Like, their mind isn't occupied with something. Hence, these thoughts can pop up and have the space to pop up and flow freely. Now, I see people who rarely give themselves a moment to not be on their device, on some phone or a laptop. And as soon as they have a spare second to do nothing, they whip out their phone as entertainment, to occupy their focus. And I've fallen victim to this myself, certainly. And for me, it's definitely a problem with music. I tend to listen to a lot of music, especially when I'm not doing anything which requires my focused attention. If I'm cooking, if I'm just chilling in bed, if I'm doing something, music's on. And that is not very good because it occupies my thought, because it kind of like, it suppresses the freedom of my mind. It tends to block it. And I definitely fall victim to these things because of the dopamine loop, which is dopamine is a hormone that gets released. It's a feel good hormone kind of, and it's when you open social media apps, you get dopamine because if you get likes, if people follow you, you get dopamine, and it makes you feel good, and it reinforces this dopamine loop that you want to go back to the app and open it again and get that good feeling again. And I get that with music because it's fun, it's exciting, it lets me sort of get in this sort of weird zone, and that feels good, so I always want to go back to it again. Now, the implications of this, let's say, distraction is that let's say if you're an entrepreneur, you might be missing out on a lot of cool ideas that you would have come up with if you hadn't been on your phone or constantly focused on something. You hadn't let your mind walk freely. And the brain is super complex and a source of inspiration. And if you block it with permanent information inputs, then you don't let it be itself and do what it's supposed to do in some sense. And I realized that this is actually kind of a drug, because information inputs act like a drug because they distract you from the problems in your life, and they allow you to not think about them and not dwell on them, which obviously feels good because facing problems is painful. And if you have a quick fix to not have to face it, humans are humans. They have a tendency to engage in those short-term fixes, let's say. So it can actually really act like a drug, and especially if you're used to doing it, you're engaging in that habit, in that dopamine loop, so you actually feel good when you're doing it. Plus, you are able to avoid pain. Wow, awesome. The human will gravitate towards that. Now, what's even more important here, there are far worse implications, I think. There are some things that we tend to not really know about ourselves, but that our unconscious does know. Things about how we're feeling or potential problems we might be having. Like, we don't know them consciously, but our unconscious, like our body, kind of knows it and can feel it. And our body tries to express these things. Or let's say you're feeling quite depressed, you're feeling quite upset about something, but you don't really know why. But you're feeling depressed, like your body is telling you something's not right. And in that sense, our bodies know something at a level that we consciously don't know and we haven't articulated clearly. Now, our unconscious tends to try to communicate with us and tell us what's going on so it can be fixed. This can be the channels that our unconscious mind uses are things like dreams and random thoughts, or feelings and emotions. Sometimes you have a dream and it actually means something. Like, you dream it and you woke up and you're like, whoa, that dream meant something. It was so pristine. It was clear, and you were able to interpret a clear message from it. That doesn't happen by accident. Like, your unconscious is trying to tell you something, I think. And in order to become aware of the message sent by our unconscious, we would need to let it be recognized by our conscious mind. We would have to be aware of it. Like, we need to give our conscious mind the freedom and space for the message to land in our conscious mind and actually be noticed. And if we're permanently occupied with our focus, we do not leave the room for the message to be recognized. Let's say you have a dream and it means something, it's excellent, but the first thing you do when you wake up is immediately reach for your phone and open it. That means you have blocked the dream. You are not interpreting it and not trying to figure out what it was. And dreams tend to sort of be quite evanescent. They sort of disappear into our memory, and you don't really remember the dreams you had, but the second you wake up, you tend to remember it. But if you grab for your phone, then you won't be able to interpret it because it disappears like that then, because your attention is occupied again. Or random thoughts might pop up. You sometimes have random thoughts that just suddenly arise, and you're like, where did it come from? I don't think it just is random. It probably has a meaning or some sort of purpose. But if you're always on your phone, then you never have the opportunity for the thoughts to pop up in the first place. And even more is in regards to feelings and moods. If you're always occupied, you don't actually become conscious of how you're feeling. You might feel depressed and anxious, but you're not really aware of it. But your body is telling you something's not right, something isn't good. So this actually has serious physical and health implications if we're always occupied with our device. So because you might not be aware of that, your health is deteriorating, and you need to fix that. So actually the state of our well-being is precarious in some sense. So hence, maybe doing phone or device detoxes helps us allocate, or helps us allow room for these thoughts and our dreams to be interpreted, and our conscious mind to give room or to give space for creative ideas that sort of arise randomly or somehow come to fruition, let's say. And or if you don't do a phone detox, you can at least allocate regular times of the day to doing nothing and letting your conscience speak and talk to you and tell you about these good ideas that you should be doing. So in conclusion, permanently being occupied or having our attention allocated to devices, laptops, phones, information inputs, prevents us from coming up with creative, independent, idiosyncratic ideas, authentic ideas, because we are always blocking it with our focus and our attention on something else and shielding any random ideas to come up. This also has implications for our health, in that our unconscious, our body might be telling us things through our mood, our feeling, our health. But if you're always occupied with something, you're kind of detached from it and you're not aware of it, and that can be deleterious. And if you have serious health problems, the health problems continue to progress without you being aware of it until it gets to a point where you cannot overlook it anymore. And by that time, or if that occurs, maybe it's too late to really fix your health problem, let's say, whether it's mental or physical. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you'd like to learn more about self-development, dating, and how to reduce suffering in life. So I can really recommend doing phone detoxes, or just giving yourself a dedicated time in the day to do nothing. Just sit down and let your mind think freely and try and think about how you're feeling, and what you'd like to be doing, what you enjoyed, what you disliked, and really reflect on that. Yeah, so thank you for listening.